Civic Action was born out of a compelling and pressing reality that this neighborhood is quickly becoming a hotspot of development and change. We looked at our own sort of history of these two institutions. The fact that Noguchi was here early as an artist and was a catalyst for creating this institution as a cultural anchor for the neighborhood. And then Socrates Sculpture Park was a dump, literally, and Mark DeSubro took it upon himself to kind of actually start pulling out all the garbage. Artworks were beginning to be installed.
And it really was born of, we have to do something. And then we said, well, gee, who really did do something out here? Two artists' visions. We all kind of came together with the idea of, let's invite 4 artists to lead teams that will come up with ideas for a very specific designated area. We selected Mary Miss, George Tracas, Rick Chajavanera, and Natalie Jarmanjenko.
As you heard from Jenny, a huge amount of thinking has already gone into Civic Action, and a lot of good ideas have been produced. But what still is needed, and we hope somehow come out of today, is some strategic thinking and some holistic thinking about the way forward from here. One of the issues here is the issue of neighborhood identity. There is no specific name for this area that kind of sits between Astoria and Long Island City. It's sometimes called Ravenswood. This area has many of the features that are appealing about New York neighborhoods. There are many kinds of mix here. There are a mix of populations. There's also a mix of uses and building types. It's adjacent to 3 areas that actually have been rezoned by city planning. This area has not yet been rezoned. But change is definitely happening in the neighborhood. There's a lot of development pressure for housing and large-scale commercial development. Change will also come from the Cornell-Technion development on Roosevelt Island. We've identified 3 overarching issues or themes. The first is the relationship of the neighborhood to the water and the question of usable open space. The second is community connection or the interweaving of parts. How do these 2 cultural institutions, the Noguchi and Socrates, and the other cultural institutions and artists themselves interact with and relate to and support and benefit from other aspects of the neighborhood? And then the third topic is transportation and mobility. This is a somewhat isolated community in transportation terms. How could the variety of means of mobility that contemporary New York has in its arsenal make the community better connected and less remote?
And then we can say, okay, this is the local condition. And I think the same thing would happen here.
Does it actually still stay as Vernon up here? Doesn't it change?
No, it's Vernon the whole way.
The whole way.
Stay industrial.
Potentially think about an industry that you would want to attract that might be more forward thinking with something that's at a higher performance.
Also works towards the development of a new industry per se. Also an emerging trend within the arts community.
And then you've got the area site that was just rezoned but hasn't really been developed.
So in this case, we have this way.
Is it within the whole? I think the scale is starts to make a district.
What we generally were thinking about is creating an area within the defined kind of floodplain of the site that's really about kind of this other kind of occupation of that landscape. It's about exchange, it's about art production and experimentation. It's a place where different kinds of functions that can happen that don't normally get to happen in the city.
So the question is, first of all, what's preserved? What is developed? Basically, incubator city of arts and industrial uses within the low-lying fabric adjoining our waterfront group.
But this could also be linked to a NYCHA district so that it would provide spillover housing for the residents of NYCHA. And we kind of looked more cross-grained this way with Manhattan and Central Park, looking at the idea of we're here, we'll talk a little bit about ferry route, but just the connection even and looking at dimension of 79th Street and the 79th Street boat basin and looking at a potential link here across Roosevelt Island and then going across In between, we were really interested in sort of the bookends of the development of Roosevelt Island and then Sunnyside rail yards.
In terms of the longevity and the amount of investment in the neighborhood, the two biggest investors in the neighborhood really are Noguchi and Socrates. So that gives you a certain position in terms of planning.
I think that's what artists said we're capable of doing. We're not capable of shaping massive public space planning. This is your realm. Our realm is probably making these illustrative moments. The light bulb goes on. Oh, that's what they're talking about. And you know, that's where my head is thinking is how can we take some of this and actually illustrate it in a modest way.
I think really what the artists, just to reaffirm, it's really they're suggesting the possibilities. I think what you did today, all of you, in different ways, I think brought something very pragmatic. I mean, nobody really was thinking about economics. How does that work? It was a very valuable afternoon for us.